Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Elam Road podcast, where on today's show we're going to be previewing a huge game down at the Gtech on Saturday against Sheffield United. Just before we get going, if you haven't already listened to our Villa full-time episode in which we dissect that crazy 3-3 draw last week and also take a dive into the impending run-in, go do so now. That episode is live across all platforms. So do go and have a listen or watch on YouTube before watching this preview. Joining me today, though, for the preview is Hal from the Sheff United Way. Hal, mate, thanks so much for joining me. Hope all's well with you.
Yeah, it is all good despite, everything in the world of football being terrible.
Fair enough. Just before we get going, guys, remember to drop a comment down below, subscribe to the YouTube and Spotify channels, and also give us a follow on our socials. That's at the Elam Road on Twitter and at Elam Road Pod on Instagram. I think the best place to start, Hal, would be with your last game against Chelsea, and perhaps maybe just to look back at the last 3 games, because in recent weeks, having watched some Sheffield United highlights of Match of the Day and sort of following the discourse around Sheffield United fans online, it's been better in recent weeks, is it not?
I mean, the performances have been a bit better, yeah, and we've got a few draws, so, that's almost a win. And, we played quite well, certainly in parts, in some games. Chelsea, the one that you most recently mentioned, and of course it was our most recent game, so it makes sense to talk about that one. We managed to rescue a draw. If you just looked at the highlights, you might think that's how it played out, but in reality, we played really well, arguably, for large parts of that game with a better side, possibly on another day. Rubber the green, could have won it, and we had some players that really stepped up and performed in that match, and it was good to see.
Yeah, 100%. I just want to, and I do want to talk about the Chelsea game specifically with reference to a couple of players that I think have stood out. But I just want to like a kind of recap of the season. Where has it gone wrong this season? Was it in the summer transfer window last year? I know Sheffield United have had a lot of injuries to contend with. I think you're quite high in the table in terms of days lost to injury. But where would you pinpoint that it's gone wrong this season?
Well, we've had a lot of injuries now for sort of 3 seasons, and going into a season that you're going to have to use your whole squad, and we've got a very threadbare, thin squad, so losing 6-7 players, always going to be difficult, and that's what's happened. Also, yeah, we lost Iliman Ndiaye, who's a generational talent, completely irreplaceable, and Sander Berge, who I think is replaceable, and I think, have managed to replace Sander with Gus Hamer, or Harmer, depending on how you say it. Now, they play slightly different roles, but he's the player that came in after Sander left, so I'm just saying he was the replacement because, time and midfield, that makes sense. So, those areas, but realistically, any team going up from the Championship, if you don't have a lot of money, you're going to struggle in the Premier League, and I'm not hugely surprised, and I think even if we'd kept Tillman and Sander, we'd probably maybe 6-9 more points, something like that. We'd still be down there.
What's the mood amongst Sheffield United fans in light of recent performances? Because I think, how long are you at the point now where you kind of conceded that relegation is the most likely and, it's kind of a done deal. But I feel like with the recent performances, the last 3 games, is it kind of almost like the shackles have been released, considering now it's kind of sunk in? I don't know. I'm trying to gauge the kind of mood amongst United fans.
I don't want to speak for other blades, so I'll just speak for myself. And I'm resigned for relegation. In fact, I did a video on our own channel months ago where I was saying that many of us are resigned to that I'd spoken to. But actually, okay, I'm heartened by the performances, but it's not going to matter too much because the real test for Chris Wilder is what he's going to do in the summer. It's going to be our biggest transfer window in 10, 20 years. I think our squad's going to look really different. I mean, this time next year, I think it's going to look chalk and cheese. So, in a way, to me, it's nice. If I want to win every game, always want Sheffield United to win. But even if we won every game now at the end of the season, I think that we will see such a different side next season because I think so many players will leave. Some that we know definitely are going to leave, like Cameron Archer, because he's on loan. And then others that you just speculate, like Vinicius Souza and maybe Gus Hamer, who I mentioned, or Harmer. Also, Anel Ahmedhodzic, I think he'll probably go. Wes Foderingham will probably go. So it's going to be up in the air, and I don't read too much into performances now because it's largely going to be irrelevant for the start of next season. We're going to probably bring in 7 new players, maybe more, and it will be really interesting to see how we start in August, and then I'll be much more interested in performances, who we've brought in, style of play, and I'll give Chris Wilder probably 3 months realistically in the Championship to get a gauge of where we are.
So definitely going to be Chris Wilder in charge if you go down next season. You don't see
Yeah,
him leaving. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
No, no chance.
And
No chance.
if you were to go down, are you confident you'd be in a position to bounce straight back up? I know you've just mentioned quite a few of the players that will be going. Is it all down to that summer transfer window, do you think?
Yeah, we can't miss. Like we've got to hit with every signing we make. We haven't done recently. Made some terrible signings, and we've not got much money. So when you've only got a bit, you've got to spend it really wisely. That's why I say this transfer window is going to be so crucial. We are up for sale. That's not a secret. Our owner has been looking to bring in either new finance or completely new ownership, and who knows if that'll happen before the transfer window opens. And if it does, well, that could change everything. Otherwise, we're going to be playing with the money we can make from the sales and the money we get, parachute payments from relegation, which is almost certain.
I think one player that you'll need to keep hold of who's impressed me in particular, and I think sort of the wider football sphere, Ollie Arblaster. Talk to me about him, because I remember after the Arsenal game, I think Wilder said he would look at bringing in some players from the academy to kind of see out the rest of the season. And Arblaster's been one that stood out. I think against Chelsea, he was fantastic. So talk to me a little bit about him.
Yeah, Andre Brooks as well, another one that's come through. I mean, Sheffield United's youth system is fantastic. I'm always happy to see young players. I think we all are. We're always happy to see young players come through that are, one of your own. And Ollie Arblaster is a Sheffield United fan. I've been to games when he's been either behind me or in close proximity to me over the years. I've got a few photos where I didn't even realise, and I've kind of looked back and I've been like, oh, there's Ollie Arblaster in the crowd, because he's a proper blade. And that's great to see. So I don't think his head will be turned yet by transfers and speculation, because his dream, like I'm sure your dream was to play for Brentford, mine was to play for Sheffield United. When he's actually living that dream, well, I feel like I wouldn't want to leave the club I love, where all I dreamed of was playing for that club. And you can probably achieve a lot of your goals with a team like Sheffield United, a team like Brentford as well. You could probably achieve a lot of your goals. You could probably, certainly, maybe not next season afterwards, play for England if you're playing well enough in the Premier League. And I think Sheffield United will go down. I think we'll then go back up. And then I think, well, you can achieve your dreams. We've both seen players who've gone on to achieve what they'd have wanted to. Now, there's then bigger questions like, how ambitious is he? Does he want to win the Champions League? And that's probably too high a ceiling, unless that takeover I mentioned earlier, does happen. Who knows? Because you need billionaires these days.
That's the dream, for sure. That's the dream. What kind of player is Arblaster? I saw like a highlights package of the game against Chelsea. Seems like a player that kind of likes to come in deep, get the ball, and then make sort of passes that break the lines. But what kind of player is he for people that don't know?
Yeah, I mean that's a pretty decent description. He's sort of that box-to-box midfielder. He's certainly not afraid of a tackle. He really will get stuck in. He can move about the pitch a lot. He's also got that ping, that long-range pass. It's accurate. I like the thing that he does. It's he checks back quite a lot as well, but in a good way. We call it the Arblaster chop. So you think he's going one way, chops it back. I also like the fact that some of his passes are disguised, and you think he hasn't even seen. How's he seen that player? And it's really exciting. I watched a little bit of him on loan earlier in the season at Port Vale, because one of my really good friends where I live is a Valiant, a Vale fan, and he kept telling me about Arblaster. So I thought, I've got to see him. And I mean, he was clearly too good for that level, and now he's looking like he's just taken to the Premier League, which is, many people believe, the highest club level.
Which other players should Brentford be worried about going into this game? I know, is Ben Diaz going to be fit, or is he out?
You never know. You never know with Ben Brereton Diaz. I mean, we've sort of speculated on our preview that he won't be, but then you never know. And Wilder never gives anything away. Same with Paul Heckingbottom. You just don't know. So until you get an hour before kickoff and you get that lineup, and Sheff United's 11 is very rarely the same 11 that we played the previous game, and that's another reason actually why I think we are down there. You need consistency. If Ben Brereton Diaz is fit, yeah, he's a threat, he's a danger. Ollie McBurney's on form at the moment. Cameron Archer's just come back from an injury, but he's got wheels for feet, so watch out for him. And then you've got other players like, I mentioned Ahmedhodzic. He's just recently started playing well again. I mean, Ben Osborne is that industrious midfielder that's going to be all over the pitch. 1 minute he's popping up in like a left wing back position. Next minute he'll be tackling a central midfielder. And, with you guys playing like a 4-3-3, could be interesting. Ben could try and, if he's starting, try and find some space out wide. So There could be one or two. You just never know. Certain games we've gone to, and particularly away from home, we've actually turned up and we've looked quite good away from Bramall Lane.
Has Cameron Archer made an appearance since Luton away?
Oh, great question. Well presented. I would have to double check.
Because I remember against Luton away, he scored that goal and it was unbelievable. The first goal against Luton when he kind of runs around the players and then smashes it in at the near post. And he's a player that I watched. I think it was when he played Everton at the very start of the season, and he scored a worldie that day as well. But I haven't really seen too much from him. Has he kind of been plagued with injury throughout the season?
He's played a bit, but yeah, recently he's been injured. It's been like a nagging injury. I think it was a calf injury, and yeah, I mean, a lot of the fixtures, to be honest, because I kind of have written this season off, even though I've watched every second of every single one. I mean, if you ask me the past sort of 4 fixtures, I would now struggle. Yeah, if you ask me the fixtures at this time in 1997, I'd probably be able to tell you all the scores, all the scorers, and possibly the attendance. But that's just because I'm getting old.
And just on Ben Diaz, is that something that you'd like to make permanent in the summer? And if so, how confident would you be in making that deal permanent? Because he has been good when he's played.
There's so much with Ben Brereton Diaz that I think he's like in the question mark unsure category. Like you mentioned, he's been injured. So is he injury prone? If he is, do we want to splash out a lot of money on him? Because Villarreal will want quite a bit of cash, I would have thought, because of what his value is, and he's got time on his contract. But then at the same time, they don't rate him. We do. Never fall in love with a lone player. Also, depends who we sell. I've already mentioned, does a takeover happen? I think there's so many question marks. But if you ask me, yeah, I'd like to see that made permanent.
Yeah, I think he's a decent player. It's kind of unfortunate that it didn't really work out for him at Villarreal because he's got just this amazing story. The whole Chilean background thing is just crazy. The fact that he was playing for Blackburn and scoring goals for Chile, it's just just nuts. But moving on to the game on Saturday, Sheffield. I was doing some research before. Sheffield United have kept one clean sheet all season, and it was against us, which is unfortunate. Yep. How are Sheffield United fans feeling going into this one in light of that reverse fixture? I think that was one of our sort of darkest days this season. I can't lie. I was there and it was absolutely abysmal from us. It was one of our worst performances.
Yeah, and you should have had a red card as well.
Yeah, we should have.
We've got a good record against Brentford recently. I think we're unbeaten in the last 5, might even be 6. Yeah, we've done all right. Of course, the Gtech Community Stadium isn't one I've ticked off, and we'll see how United get on there. But yeah, I mean, I don't think we read too much into that. If we manage to beat you, we'll be the only team we'll be able to do the double over this entire season, I think. So yeah, that would be something. We'd like one of those, but realistically, we've conceded goals away from home in every game. So I would say if you were a betting man and you weren't a Sheffield United fan, watching this as a neutral, the chance of Sheffield United conceding a goal is pretty high. And also our captain, Jack Robinson, might well be out. He went off against Chelsea injured, and he's probably going to win Player of the Season. And he's been our most reliable Mr. Consistent. So without him, that's a concern.
You just mentioned the head-to-head record in terms of Brentford playing Sheffield United, and I haven't got this in the running order, but it's actually it's just occurred to me. I should have really asked you about the infamous game when we played Sheffield United. I think it was League One, 2-2, like 3 red cards in the game. I think Bradley Wright Phillips equalised in the last minute. I don't remember. I just thought Brentford fans listening to this, it's quite an iconic game in terms of Brentford's history. I think we were mounting a promotion charge that year.
There,
yeah, and it was just absolutely insane. Was it 2 red cards on both sides, or maybe 2 red cards for us?
I think Kieran Freeman was involved, but I also remember Gary Medine getting sent off against Brentford. I remember getting Charlie Good on loan and him getting sent off, instantly. So I think red cards, Sheffield United and Brentford, that's probably a theme.
I know you mentioned the Frank Onyeka challenge. The 2, it kind of comes off the ground and his foot was kind of up on his shin. It was definitely should have been a red card in the reverse fixture I'm talking about. But we won't get into the inconsistencies with officiating this season because I think that's a whole other podcast.
But in a way, it's so inconsistent that it's consistent.
It's consistently inconsistent.
Absolutely. You're going to get a bad decision, and that's actually quite comforting.
Yeah. What kind of game are you expecting on Saturday then? I think I should mention, I think this will be the first time that Tony and Mbeumo have started a game together since May of last year. And it will also be the first time. The reason I sent you the lineups and that would start in a 4-3-3. This is the first time I think we're going to be in a 4 since I don't even know how long ago. We tend to set up in a 5, quite defensive. But the fact that we now have Tony and Bumo and Whistle all available from the start, I think we're going to go in a 4. I think this for us, and we've spoken about it on our podcast, this game is we've labelled it as the biggest game in the Premier League since we've been in it, just in terms of us getting the win today, considering our next 2 fixtures are against Luton and Everton. If we get a win Saturday, recording this on Thursday, if we get a win on Saturday, we will go 7 points clear of Luton, assuming that Man City get the win against them. So for us as Brentford fans, this game is absolutely massive. We've billed it as the biggest game since we've been in the Premier League. And it's really exciting that we're going to be starting the game in a 4. At least I think we're going to be starting the game in a 4. But what kind of game are you expecting on Saturday?
Well, all I could think while you were saying that was I did my preview and I said that, I'd spoken to you and I spoke to a couple of friends who are Brentford fans as well. And I think I said quite confidently, 4-3-3 as Brentford always play. You've just said there that a 5 has been the tradition. So I've now sounded like an idiot, and that is not uncommon on my match previews because I don't pay, I don't know about you, I don't pay that much attention to the opposition. I kind of just watch my own team, so I'm pretty bad at noticing. Like when I said there was a red card, I couldn't even remember who that was. I made the challenge for Brentford. The kind of game I foresee an awful game of football, which will be decided by 1 goal, and I think whoever scores first will win the game. And not necessarily being the only goal, but I don't see this being the goaliest game, and it certainly won't be first on match of the day, despite how important it is for Bees fans.
Yeah, I to be fair, to give you credit, I think Thomas Frank's preferred system is a 4. We started the season in a 4, but due to the injuries, due to Rico Henry and Aaron Hickey, we've kind of reverted to a back 5. So you wouldn't be wrong in saying traditionally we like to play a 4 at the back.
Yeah, that won't be reflected in the comments. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, but I mean, I think it's going to be, it's probably not going to be the best game. Definitely won't be first on match of the day. You got that right. But in terms of our season, it's pivotal for us really, and I'm looking forward to it. The fact that we're playing a 4, the fact that we're going to see Tony, who was rested against Villa, and Mbumo, who's only just come back from injury but was good against Villa as well, is something I'm looking forward to. Just before we round off, how score prediction.
Well, I have to stick with what I said on my own preview, really, don't I? Because otherwise I'd look like a thicko deluxe. I'm going to say then 2-1 Blades, and whilst that might be fantastical, like you earlier said, we did manage to beat Brentford in the season. We might have our best day at the office. You might have an off day, and that's all you need in the Premier League. A little bit of luck. I don't think we'll create too many chances. We'll probably start well, and like I said, whoever scores first, I think will win. It needs to be us. It really needs to be us, and we need to be very, very astute and concentrated at set pieces, because that is where we've really, really let ourselves down this season.
Yeah, I think if we score first, don't be disheartened. The game won't be over, because we think we've dropped something like 33 points from winning positions this season. So genuinely, if Brentford score first, I wouldn't get too downhearted, because we just are absolutely terrible at defending leads this season for some reason. I think that's a league high in terms of the amount of points we've dropped.
Is that
true?
Yeah, that amount?
Yeah, it's more than our first 2 seasons in the Premier League combined, and it's like 10 points clear of whoever's second in the table. It's a lot of points.
That's crazy.
I know. We don't have a problem. We don't have a problem with scoring. We just have a problem with actually seeing games out, which is not a good thing to be good at in the Premier League.
Well, let's start a campaign to make Premier League football games 60 minutes long, because I think both of us would be in a very different position.
Yeah, I think that would be a good place to round off. 60-minute long Premier League games. I'm all for it. The Ealing Road podcast will be back next week to reflect on what will hopefully for us be 3 points against Sheffield United. In the meantime, though, remember to drop a comment down below with your thoughts ahead of Saturday. Subscribe to the YouTube and Spotify channels, and also give us a follow on our socials. That's at the Ealing Road on Twitter and at Ealing Road Pod on Instagram. Hal, that was a pleasure, mate. Good luck for Saturday.
Thanks, we'll need it.